All right, looks like we are ready to go. I'm so excited because this is our first session where we have 3 people, and it's like 1, 2, 3 with our faces. And before we jump into this next session, I just want to remind everybody that if you are just coming in for the live session, don't worry. Everything is going to be playable on demand. So if you want to go into day 1 or day earlier on day 2 sessions, if you have some time, in between some calls or not have much work to do, please go back and check out some of the sessions that you may have missed. Now, without further ado, I'm very excited to see this next session come to life. I'm not going to say too much more except for welcome, Julia and Katerina.
Hi.
Hi, thanks, Casey. All right. Well, so I'm Julia Beabout. I'm the CEO and Creative Director at NovaBuy, and I will let Katerina introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Katerina Ofnarovska. I'm CEO of Augmented City, actually a startup who develops the enabling technology to play with metaverse and with localization and air cloud. So a lot of technical stuff around.
Yeah. Great, and we've been having a fabulous time working with their system. We specialize in large-scale outdoor augmented reality placemaking, and so today we're going to be talking to you about a particular project we did, which was really kind of a groundbreaking project, and I'm proud to say we just won an award for it, and would not have been possible without Augmented City system. So we're going to start by showing a quick video of the project, because it's kind of hard to really understand without that, as opposed to just still pictures. So we'll do that first. It's a little less than a minute, and then we'll go into some slides about it and talk about the project qualitatively and some of the challenges that we encountered. So I am going to, not super familiar with AirMeet, so hopefully appreciate your patience. Let me share that. Let me know when you can see. And here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see, hopefully you can hear it as well. I'm not sure.
Not yet.
All right, I think we'll have to go without the soundtrack, but there's jazz music playing. Okay. So hopefully that gave you a bit of an idea about the project. So now I'm going to move over to some slides to talk about some of the specifics of what you were seeing and a little bit of background on the project. So I'm just going to ask, can you hear me okay, Katerina?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you can see my slide presentation?
Yes, I can see it. Very good.
Great. Okay, so the project is called Live at the Blackhawk, and we'll just walk through. It's a mobile phone-based augmented reality project, as you mentioned, that really 5G has really enabled the development of this, and certainly the better user experience. First of all, just want to thank everybody involved in this project. I always say it takes an AR village to make these projects, and that was certainly true in this case as well. So one of the goals we had of the project is it's very much in a challenging neighborhood in San Francisco known as the Tenderloin. And people it's very maligned neighborhood and very out of touch with actually the positive elements of the neighborhood. And so the goal of the project was kind of to move people from this microcosm of phone AR to really connecting them with their physical environment and understanding their community better and helping to build relationships. One of the great things about the Tenderloin is it has this rich, amazing innovative history. A lot of that innovation was around music. One of the most famous jazz bands of all time, Dave Brubeck's band, used to appear at the Black Hawk Jazz Club, which was located in this neighborhood at the corner of Turk and Hyde. But today that spot is occupied by a parking lot that you can see here. It's also populated by many people that have many of the social challenges, substance abuse, homelessness, mental illness challenges that we see on our streets today. And so this was something we wanted to kind of rehabilitate or draw new energy to this as well, this corner. But with what we ultimately decided to do was locate this in the neighborhood park, which provided a much safer location in terms of away from traffic and much more accessibility to the neighborhood. This is a real beloved park that had gone through a renovation. And so it also had this great green that was accessible to people of all abilities. And so we decided to locate it here. You can just see some other views, and here you can see the Black Hawk in the phone view there. So a couple of things that were maybe difficult to pick up in the video are that the billboards that used to populate the outside of the real Black Hawk were actually repurposed to be art gallery space. We worked with local youths to create at the Boys and Girls Club in the Tenderloin to create these artworks for it. And these were based on stories that they wanted to tell about their neighborhood. And then you can tap on these billboards and you'll get additional audio-visual content that you can see here on the right. So there'll be a narrated audio story that tells you about that artwork and the story, neighborhood story that's behind it and the neighborhood history. And so there's a total of 5 billboards that you can interact with, and that can be expanded, as you can see to the left on some of the striped billboards. The other things this project incorporated, and we really wanted to be very inclusive and involve the community as much as possible and have them be part of the creation process. So we invited a number of local artists that are based in the Tenderloin or have a history of working with the Tenderloin to create digital artworks to populate the interior of the Black Hawk Jazz Club, just like you would in the real world. The idea is that this becomes a rotating digital art gallery space moving forward. So this was kind of our first exhibit. And then we also invited local guest musicians to create the soundtrack. And again, the idea would be that this gets rotated out with each exhibition that we start. And then we wanted to make sure we were kind of historically accurate, but in a playful way. And one of the most interesting things about the Black Hawk Jazz Club was that it was really radically inclusive. And that's something we really wanted to emphasize. And one of the ways they were inclusive was not just racially and many of the ways we think about it, but actually age inclusive. So they had this separate room in the back with this chicken wire fence that if you were underage at that time, below 18, you could come and enjoy jazz and learn about it, but not be safely away, I guess you could say, from the alcohol. And so one of the most interesting things is this project was actually conceived well before COVID and so many of the changes that we've experienced over the last 2 years. And during that time, the technology completely changed in terms of AR, or really advanced. And so how we had planned to do the project, which was a more older generation of AR, really transformed And really, this transformation has been brought about by a combination of 5G, advances in computer vision, which Augmented City is really going to speak about, and then also this edge computing. And so, particularly with the 5G combined with the edge computing, it really allowed us to utilize content of this size. So the content in this particular application is actually 35 megabytes. It can take quite a while to download, and Katerina will be talking about some statistics with that, but certainly the 5G made that much faster and a more user friendly experience. And that also enabled us to increase the resolution and quality of the textures that we used, that we could utilize in the project, decreased the latency that people were experiencing. And it also enabled us to transition to using dynamic content, which was really key in this. So the assets are actually loaded upon app opening. So that allowed us to certainly meet App Store limitation requirements in terms of size of the overall app. And then the 5G enables us to actually keep those assets, change them out easily, and keep them up to date. And then finally, the computer vision was key for this. So again, a couple of years ago, we would not have been able to do it this way. So this type of environment with the park actually would be a very challenging situation for computer vision to recognize, but there was enough detail around the edge of the park that we were able to capture with Augmented City system to create a scan of the area. And here you can see that. So you can see the areas that I scanned here on the left. We did quite an extensive area, made sure we got a good point cloud for the scan to insert the content in. And here you can see the low density point cloud that is actually used to identify where the person is and what they're looking at, and position the content appropriately based on their location and what they're viewing. Certainly the 5G really facilitates this rapid localization and this frequency of it as well. So with that, I will let Katerina take over from here. Katerina, would you like me to continue to manage the slides for you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just not to change the horses on the crossroad. So, let's look behind the curtains of our technical part, let's say. So for us, to be honest, this project was quite of challenge. And I will explain why. Usually we do the following. We do 3 steps with our technology. So first of all, we scan the space with our application. So a user just have to download the app and just scan any space he wants. So it could be indoor, it could be outdoor, but for outdoor, maybe it's even better because you can just scan map kilometers, and it's quite fast, it's quite easy. Then you create, let's say, a point of cloud of your space, like a street or a square or whatever, and then you play with content. But it was not only a case of this project, and I will explain why. Because usually what we do navigation with AR, or we put some kind of content on the buildings, or on the squares, or whatever. Here, in this case, we had to put the content inside the model. So we had to do navigation not in a space, in a real space, but inside the 3D model. So could you please move to the next slide with maybe some kind of challenges? Yeah, here we are. So what kind of challenges we faced? First of all, you know that the hunger is getting bigger when you start to eat, let's say. So all the time you like to make some additional functionality, some additional small thing. So to make it better, to make it more interactive. So, and actually what we had at the end of the day, we had a very big sized 3D model with a lot of textures. And it was like 140 megabyte model. So we had to be very careful with our app at the end, so just to install it in the application. Then we had to add a lot of different let's say interaction details. So for example, to interact with billboards, to interact with instruments, to navigate inside the model. Well, maybe it looks quite easy to do, but it's not. And of course, this model should be fixed in a space, so it shouldn't like float from one place to another. We needed to fix it to using our geo poles or localization, and not to keep waiting our end users to download this model. So maybe we could just move to another slide.
This one or go back here?
Just a second. Oops.
And I think there's some lag. So.
Oh, yeah, I have some lag. Well, actually, what we resolved. First of all, we played a lot with different audio effects, because the end user shouldn't see the difference between passes. So the end user just have to view in quite user-friendly way every detail. So if I put my phone to let's say one billboard, I would like to scroll and see different content. If I look at another one, I interact with another one billboard, just to see and maybe to hear different sound effects. So then when we had to upload to the market our, let's say, application, we found out that it was quite big. So the size was quite big, and we couldn't, for example, pass the control of Android platform. So then we just did a step back, and let's say we reduced all textures and sizes. We optimized everything to embed it, let's say, in an optimized way. Then just to play with light, so I suppose that we can improve it, because if you look at the picture, at the slide, you will see that we don't have a shadow. So still we cannot play in air with shadows and real shadows. So if we have a sun from one side, our museum will show another shadow. So it means that still, for our brains, it's still artificial picture. And as we are all, let's say, animals inside, I mean, we have instincts. Our brain doesn't recognize in a good way such kind of picture. So our next step will be to play better with lighting, with shadows. And we hope that 5G traffic will help us with it, because we need it. We need it faster, we need it more sufficient and more strong, like to improve every detail of our spatial cinema scene. So that it is, that was our first step. And actually this kind of project gave life to other next projects, because now we are doing like, for example, interactive museum on the streets. It means that different characters from different places in a quite long prospect can interact with the end user. And we talk about big models, big size models, 3D models. We need to move ahead with some kind of better graphics. I mean, with more realistic one, but still we have some limits of Unity. We still have some limits, technical limits of platforms. And let's say we have a lot of things to do to be closer to metaverse and perfect metaverse. So, and it's challenging, it's beautiful, and well, we are ready. Actually, I talked about results as well.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing now. Are we good?
Well, just I already did it. So
okay.
Without seeing any slide.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to move to Q&A or?
Well, actually, maybe we have to wait for some questions, or we have to give some answers.
Okay, I think I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can. I was going to just comment further on. You brought up some really good points as well. So I think one of the things that you're basically talking about the lighting and the effects and all of that. And I think one of the things that AR has really made me appreciate more is what we're really dealing with here is human perception of space and light. And that does not necessarily translate to actual space and light in the real world. And so as a 3D professional, somebody who's been in the 3D field for more than 30 years at this point, it feels deeply unsatisfying. But I'm always amazed actually at how sophisticated actually our vision and perception is. And so it's really about creating something that satisfies you from that perspective. And so frequently the lighting is really key, as Katerina said. So the more improvements we can get in that, the better. What we find generally right now is that the automated lighting, shadows, lighting effects are not realistic enough or provide consistent results on the quality of the models and the textures. And so frequently we take an approach where we bake in what's called baking in the lighting. And so the trade-off there is you get higher quality kind of textures and content, but it doesn't necessarily reflect the real ambient lighting at the time. So those are just kind of, questions, artistic questions, quality questions, that choices that you make on each project. So how long did this?
Julia, at the end of the day, we talk all the time about immersion. So we talk about feelings, and feelings are inside our brains. So we talk about impressionism, let's say. So if we have a feeling, if we have a feeling, some kind of perception of something, it's just good enough. So sometimes it's enough to see a very strange character. So we don't need to show very realistic Shem to arrive. Right. So it could be something very nice, fluffy, and it's good enough. But still, from the point of technology, from the point of even perfection, we need to move ahead and show that the same graphics as we can see from the movie, we can move it to our augmented reality. And that's why we need such instruments as 5G. Agreed. Because we know how to do it. I mean, technicians, we know, but we don't have enough traffic and we don't have enough hardware to arrive to it.
Yes.
So the biggest case also is about smart glasses, but it's another topic. Let's leave it because I will not finish anyway my discussion. So we have a question from Cassie. How long did this project take from, let's say, idea to deployment?
Yeah, well, we had COVID in between, as I mentioned, so it took years because of that. Really, the project was conceived let me think about that, like I think it was 2018, through just I've been working in the neighborhood a long time and just, working with stakeholders there and familiar with the history and learning more about it. So the project from concept was really conceived in 2018. We had originally planned to deploy it in spring of 2020, so about a year, not quite a year and a half later, but then COVID hit. So ultimately, we ended up deploying it this past summer at the end of August. So all told, it was really a couple of years from start to completion. I would say in terms of actual design and production, we really went into that heavily. It was probably about a 6-month cycle. If depending on the amount of community engagement you want to do, and that was really one of our goals with this. It really takes about a year to get meaningful community engagement. But in terms of design and production, you could, once you know what you're going to do, you could do something like this in 12 weeks or so. It would be a push, but we've done it in less, but I don't recommend that. I know, Katerina, if you want to chime in on your side about that too.
Well, actually, the biggest part of the project, of such project, the longest part is still that one that belongs to the way of communication between the community, the way of education of the community. And so that's why this project was quite unique, because we didn't talk about millions of dollars or whatever, and some trial that at the end of the day is nothing technologically, but we talked with, let's say, ignorant from the point of view, technologically ignorant community. Correct me if I'm wrong. So people who, let's say, it's not a primary goal for them to talk about metaverse, to be in metaverse and everything, but they believed. So at the end of the day, they believed in the technology and they contribute with their soul to this project. So even children. And for us, it's a big case, to be honest. It was quite challenging anyway, because to work with children directly, I mean, to get some kind of feedback from them. And then after that stress, we worked with artists, because they are very careful with technology and everything, because there are a lot of stuff right now around, and actually artists look at such technology with quite with quite unsure feeling, because they don't care about hype, they care about feelings, they care about beauty of their masterpieces. So at the end of the day, Julia convinced them to do it. And for us, it was challenging to do it as shared error experience. So not only for one mobile phone, but for multiple users. So for us, it was a big case as well. Mm-hmm. So 12 weeks maybe, but it depends on graphics, to be honest. And years and years still of education of our audience. So
yeah, great. That was well put, right? I would say really, if for meaningful community engagement, you really need like a 6-month design cycle, community engagement and design cycle for sure. And then I would give yourself, 3 to 6 months for development, for design, and creation and development.
Julia, at the end of the day, design depends also on, let's say, money. So,
absolutely, right.
That's the case. If you have money and you need to develop good design, you can do it even in, let's say, 2 months.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's a difficult question to answer because it's not really a question of production for this project. It had so many other factors. There was a lot of community engagement, a lot of design, a lot of research on the history, those types of things. So like we took the kids on field trips to learn about their neighborhood, for them to discover what stories they wanted to tell. So, all of that, yeah. So, okay, is there or will there be, oh, sorry. Is there or will there be a spatial audio dimension? Great question. We do not have that right now. Would love to do that. Yeah, I think that would be super cool. Definitely. Okay, any other questions? What is the idea of, they asked, okay.
Well, what is the ideal project? The ideal project is in terms of what? In terms of graphics, in terms of everybody who wants to look, they can look at it. So it doesn't depend now. As we talk about Air Cloud, and we talked about shared experience. So like, I don't know, 100, 200, 300. Julia, what was it?
It varied in terms of the launch event. We had probably about 75 to 100 people there. So the project is live and ongoing. The idea is that it's now a community asset. There's a number of tours, guided tours of the neighborhood. Obviously, those have been on pause because of COVID as well, but they are starting to get restarted. So the idea is that it would be able to be used by local community stakeholders, including tour guides, merchants, and all of that for advertising. So, we would imagine, it's hard for me to imagine, there would be more than 100 people at one time. I think more normal will be probably between 10 and 25 people that might be involved in a tour. But I think it's really a question of technical limit in terms of augmented cities, the number of users. I don't know, what is your maximum number of users?
Well, actually, thanks to 5G there in that location, we didn't have too big problems, but with 4G. So if here in this case, we talked about, let's say, 4-5 seconds. So of course, we didn't arrive to 3 seconds or less, because still it's hardly possible. But 4 seconds for downloading something, it's good enough. Because with 4G, we talk about, let's say, 40 seconds for such a big model. And good comment from Casey actually about 3D graphics without 5G. It's possible to do, because, for these cases, we have technicians and algorithmists, because they can invent the optimized way to show these big models, but it's much more difficult.
Well, I will say, I just will chime in. What we did here, this isn't only a 5G experience. So people were using it with 4G phones. So that was, at least for this experience. So that's something that we're very conscious of in our projects, is recognizing that not everybody has the latest phones and the latest technologies, or iPhones or Androids. And so we're always making sure that our projects are accessible on as many different types of devices and networks as possible. So this one, we designed it so that it would be capable for the broadest audience. But certainly 5G, I think where we really notice the biggest impact of 5G is really loading of content. So that is an issue. So as Katerina mentioned, with this app, we tend to like to download our content at the time of app open. And so 5G like literally cuts that time in half. So this project, depending where you are in the world and what server it's accessing, and that's part of the reason I was saying earlier, is the edge computing is actually a big piece of this puzzle as well. It's 5G with edge computing. So for instance, in San Francisco, this content happens to be on a local server there. So like literally it is like less than 10 seconds. It's faster than in San Francisco at the park. They have like the highest level of 5G available, and so it's like less than 10 seconds. So, but here I'm in Seattle, and I have a test bed here, so we can work with the project. And it does take longer. I would say it's more like 20 seconds. But when I compare that to, say, with a 4G download, that's like 40 seconds, if not more. And I know Katerina, when they're downloading it in St. Petersburg or Italy, it takes 40 seconds, right? So those are, it's all of those things.
We talk about very medieval streets, very narrow streets where there is not, we don't have sometimes not only 4G but 3G doesn't work properly. So that's why we have to, let's say, cover in our way, in our technological way, with some kind of, if we talk about navigation, because, for example, we did a project in a small town, it's called Angera. So there, a small snake guide you to a castle. So, and this snake guides you along a very, very narrow street sometimes without any internet or Wi-Fi. So, of course, we needed to cut to pieces every, let's say, pass, and then combine it with some downloading elements, let's say, in the application, so the end user doesn't see so much the gaps between. But of course, with 5G, it would be much more easier to do. So,
yeah. Did you have problems with different people not having devices that work with 5G? So yes and no. Like I said, we definitely designed and created the specs of the models and everything to work with 4G and as big a number of phones or types of phones as possible. There were a few folks that had problems. It frequently boils down to if a lot of times if they have the latest AR Core or AR Kit on their phone. We have run into problems with some Android phones more than iPhones. But overall, it was not a problem. There was just a few folks that had some issues. But overall, it was not a problem. Like I said, it really just gets to the timing. And so when you have a launch event like that, it's great. Obviously, everybody is there for the specific event or the specific app. And so they're kind of, have an event kind of psychology in their head. And so they're willing to kind of wait. But if you compare, if they have a slower phone, right, if it's going to take them 40 seconds. But if you compare that to somebody that, say, is out on the street and maybe just is discovering this on their own, asking somebody to wait 40 seconds or longer in that kind of situation, you kind of risk them aborting the app and aborting the experience. So that's really kind of where I see, the 5G and edge computing is really helping, is actually helping to retain user engagement and actually get them into the experience. So hopefully that helps. Okay, what is next? Any plans to do similar projects in other countries? Yes, we'd love that. We actually have a number of projects going on. We're launching another, we like I said, we really specialize in this kind of like outdoor world scale experiences, and that's persistent over time. And so we're launching another project tomorrow, actually, in Seattle for the AIDS Memorial Pathway. That's another augmented city project that we're using their system as well. Yeah, and we've got other ones that we've done here. And I know, Katerina, I'll let you talk. They're based in Europe, so I'll let you talk about what you're doing there.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, even in Europe, we don't have too much experience with end users. I mean, of course, we started to do something, but it's not very mature still. For example, I would like to use anyway experience of Julia for next projects. We would like to collaborate because she has such unique experience how to place even the model in a correct way, because the biggest problem right now is still that people don't know where to look at. So, and she knows how to place in a better way. So maybe you've noticed during the video, so we used the old type of signs, the old type of communication with end users. So we don't need QR code. We don't need even some connection with, let's say, some kind of surface, because everything is already installed in an app. But psychologically, we use this trick to connect to, let's say, I don't know, connect end users with our AR experience, because otherwise they don't understand.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. I think what's, again, kind of where the technology advanced from the time we conceived the project to now. Yeah, so we would have, before, when we were starting, we would have needed some markers, right? Now we don't. You can do completely markerless AR, which is amazing and fantastic, but the user still needs the marker, right? Like right now, I think that's our biggest challenge is people aren't psychologically thinking like, oh, let me pull out my phone and see what I can see here. And a couple of years from now, hopefully that'll be occurring to people. And so maybe we won't need those things. But right now, people still need something in the physical environment to tell them there's something there and that they can pull out their phone and see it. And then I have my own personal bias too, that those physical, whether it's signage or something, those physical cues, real world cues, actually help create some of the magic, in my opinion, that, kind of bridging that digital real world divide. That's just me. But yes, telling people where to look and all of that is really still we're all still learning a lot about how
but
to get.
It's getting better every day, because maybe all of you remember how we looked in supermarket at people who talked on Bluetooth. So they looked crazy, but right now nobody cares. So 2 years ago, when we start a project in Bari, first test bed, it was amazing because every policeman stopped us to ask what we look at through our camera. Maybe we scan something, maybe we do some photos that we shouldn't do. So it was very difficult to explain them that we map the territory. Now it's not so difficult. When we explain them that we do digital twin, they understand. So it's the case. Because everybody understands right now, thanks to, let's say, Facebook with Meta and metaverse and all this advertising and all this promotion, for us the path is getting easier to do well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So actually, I just ran into that literally like on Sunday, not while I was scanning, but I was placing content on the site here. And the police are generally okay with it now. Like, yeah, people, I'm not getting inquiries from officials, but the general public is not. So, you do have to, I've taken to wearing a caution, like a construction vest, caution vest, because people think you're filming them. And I'm like, I'm not even looking at you. And so the two ways I've learned, like sometimes it gets a little scary. Like I had one person who really got very much in my face and would not even let me attempt to explain what I was doing, that I was not filming him. And so, like I said, a caution vest, particularly when you're scanning or placing content, I advise that at this point, so you look official. And then the other is, the trick I've learned is, instead of saying, hey, I'm not filming you or whatever, is invite them to look at your phone and say, I want to see what I'm seeing. And then they're like, oh, right. And it kind of changes the conversation. So if you can get to that point, that's another way to kind of navigate those situations. So
I like this first moment when you have some kind of wow effect from some kind of character. For example, once in Verona on the square, I was playing with a fish, with an interactive fish, let's say in air. So people were looking at me, but when they saw a fish, do you remember that one from Ali? That one,
yeah,
very leaf. So it's like a red fish. They were, oh, but it's a fish. How you do it?
yeah.
Uh,
So like inviting those people into what you're doing, which really gets to what this whole project was about too, was inviting the community, inviting people in to share what you're doing is really fun for them. It's fun for us. So I was going to dovetail on to something else that Katerina was saying is like a lot of the challenges, well, we have certainly many technical challenges to solve. A lot of them are kind of user experience challenges as well. And one of those is occlusion is still a real challenge. And I'm assuming everybody knows that term, but basically if, the fact that you see my hand is behind this phone as opposed to like this, right? So that is still really hard. And that's not so much augmented city system or whatever. It's really just where that technology is at this point. So we use Unity a lot, and their systems based on Unity. And so we've been trying and experimenting with their automatic occlusion in their AR foundation. And just still a lot of challenges, a lot of performance issues associated with that. So that's the other trick, is really getting experienced about how to place content, design and place content that is going to be an enjoyable and immersive user experience, that they're not going to be distracted by the fact that maybe the occlusion is not realistic. I think we're getting there. We're getting very close, and I'm like really waiting for that, because it would make our lives easier. But right now, there's still a lot of kind of like careful placement you have to do to make things look like they're really in the integrated environment and account for lack of occlusion, automatic occlusion, or environmental occlusion. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for all the kind words. My gosh. All right, let's see. Did you have problems that didn't? Okay, I think we got most of them here. How many people watched it? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you guys for your interest.
Thank you for your attention. So
Yeah. Okay.
stay with us. You see a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
good. Thank you very much, Casey, for such wonderful experience.
Yes. Thank you so much. And pulling all this together. Hey, Stephen.
Hi, Steve. He is a very bright storyteller, actually.
Yes, he's great. He's great. He's been doing groundbreaking AR work as well with his Bubico character in Europe and most recently in New York. So yeah, he's a great. We love working with Stephen. Very creative guy.
Because he has an eye of producer, so anyway, he understands how people react on that. So
absolutely. Great. In fact, I showed his character was in part of our presentation there, Bubico. She's an adorable traveler that tries food all over the country. So, oh, there's Casey. Hey.
Oh, yeah, kind of like a ghost, like a pop in.
Yeah, by you. So it should be night, right?
Yeah. It's like really late for me now. So I just want to say thank you so much, ladies. It was so fantastic to have you guys like go step by step on how you built this. This is truly amazing. I wish everybody in immersive technology did a session like this.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really amazing, ladies. Thank you so much. and tell people like how they can reach out to you. What is the best way to get in contact with you?
Sure.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Go ahead, Katerina.
Just maybe a LinkedIn or whatever, or just drop a mail. I don't know.
Yeah, same here. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty good about monitoring it, so you're welcome to reach out to us there. Other than that, I'll put my email in here, but you can go to our website as well, which is Novaby, NOVABY.com. And I'm on the other side. Our team is on the other side of that contact form, so that's a way to do it as well. So
Great. Oh my gosh.
reach out. We're evangelists of this, especially for public engagement and community involvement. So feel free to reach out.
Great. I think I might have like some ideas for Singapore. So
That would
definitely reaching out when I get some different project briefs coming my way. So I think it'd be fantastic to have you ladies work on something here. Again, thank you so much, ladies. And for anybody that is watching, thank you so much for sticking around. This is the end of day 2. So we're almost so we're 40% done with the summit. I just want to thank everybody once again. Let's get geared up for day number 3 tomorrow. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.